On Saturday night, the 107,000 people who were in attendance and the 8.2 million people who were watching on their television saw the Notre Dame Fighting Irish walk into Kyle Field, beat the Texas A&M Aggies 23-13, and make a resounding statement that this Irish team is for real.
You are Locked On Irish, your daily podcast on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome in. This is Locked On Irish, your daily Notre Dame podcast, and I'm your host, Tyler Wojciak. I'm a Notre Dame alum and producer at Fox Sports, and I'm dropping the show a little bit earlier than normal. We're doing it on a Sunday night here. I literally just got off the plane from Texas after an unbelievable weekend. My voice is a little raspy, so I apologize about that, but if you're like me, you are consuming as much content as humanly possible about Notre Dame's win over Texas A&M, so I didn't want to have to make you wait until Monday morning. We're doing it a little bit earlier tonight, and as always, you can listen wherever you get your podcasts or watch the full episode on YouTube. Remember, like the video and subscribe if you are watching along, or rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it is the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. Go to 5hourenergy.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Okay, obviously, we're going to be talking about Notre Dame's win over Texas A&M. And I could probably talk about this game for 4 hours, but one, I don't think my voice can handle that. And two, I think we're just going to try to keep it to 30 minutes today, right? Because we all have stuff to do. But here's how it's going to go down. I'm going to break down why this was such an important win for Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame and what it was like to be there in College Station and watch it from the crowd, because I think you could feel it from the moment that I got into College Station that this was a huge, huge game for both programs, and Notre Dame came out on top. Then I'm going to talk about how it went down on the field, and I'm going to revisit my keys to the game because that ended up being the difference in this game. And then we're going to wrap up today's show by looking at the future of this season, what it means, and why I think the Irish are on the right track now to finish undefeated, and this could be a really, really special season. But let's start off with the main takeaway about this game. This is a program win for Marcus Freeman, for Notre Dame, for every player, for every person on the staff, for everyone in the athletic department. I cannot overstate how important this win was for Notre Dame. And yes, let's get rid of the caveats right away. This Texas A&M team is probably not going to be competing for a national championship this year. They are flawed. It's the first game under Mike Elko, but that is a really good football team. And that was an absolutely incredible environment to watch a college football game. It was so fucking loud. I normally don't cuss, but I have to because I really need to emphasize just how hostile it was to be in that stadium. Now, I will say, Texas A&M fans could not have been nicer. They were almost too nice, to be honest with you. Like, on Friday night, me and my friends and me and my family, we were out at some of the bars, and most of the Texas A&M fans were super, super kind. And then as I was trying to get an Uber home, I was by myself, and I had a couple students who might have been overserved that were, let me have it a little bit, saying FND. And I was like, honestly, this is good. This is what it should be. I'm at a road SEC game. I like a little animosity, but overall, just an insane experience. So much fun to be a part of. But man, I was so impressed by how Notre Dame handled themselves in such a hostile environment. When Texas A&M came out before the game, it was so loud, but it reached a true fever pitch on that last drive. Notre Dame got the ball 6 minutes ago. They got to go 85 yards to score. The game is tied. They played Mo Bamba on the speakers, and I literally looked at my buddy Jack Mitchell, who was sitting next to me, and I was like, I can't hear myself think, let alone like what those guys on the field could do. Like, it was so difficult to play. And now Notre Dame did a pretty good job of quieting the crowd for, the middle portion of the game, but it was extremely hostile. It was extremely loud. And for this Notre Dame team to go into that environment and win in the way that they did just makes it that much more special. Like, there was a way where Notre Dame could kind of win this game in a fluky manner, and it would still obviously be a huge win because they got the W on the road. Like, a win is a win. But the manner in which they did it, to me, is why this is so important. They went on the road, and they stuck to their identity, despite the fact that this offensive line had only 6 career starts combined among the group. They ran into a 9-man box on the game-deciding play. Jeremiah Love goes right up the middle, scores a touchdown against one of the best defensive lines in college football, probably the best defensive line this Notre Dame team is going to face all season long, and they did it. This team wore them down in the fourth quarter. All that talk about Lauren Landau and all the great things he did as the new strength and conditioning coach for the Irish. I mean, from the moment he was hired, there was a little bit of skepticism, I think, just because he had only been a strength and conditioning coach for the Denver Broncos. And he lasted for a couple of years, then he got fired. And he really, came from the private sector. This was not a traditional hire. And then all offseason long, anyone who you'd listen to would say, Loren Landau is a difference maker for this team. The players talked about it. The people in the media talked about it. And I was like, man, that sounds awesome. Let's see it on the field. And we saw it. On Saturday night. Notre Dame had the ball for over 8 minutes in the fourth quarter. They wore them down. They ran the ball down their throats, and that is a big reason why they won this game. I remember I was in an Uber, maybe it was Saturday morning or Friday night. Our Uber driver's from College Station. He was talking about the game, and he's like, them boys ain't ready for the heat here. And I was like, man, like these Texas A&M fans are confident. And I understand that, yes, the Aggie players are used to it, or more used to it, I should say, practicing and playing in the heat, but like it affects them too, right? Well, apparently, it affects them more than it affects Notre Dame because Notre Dame was the more conditioned team. They were more physical at the end, and they won that game because of all these things that happened in the offseason, all the things that have happened over the past couple of years since Marcus Freeman took over as head coach. His roster building was on full display. The transfer showed out. Riley Leonard is a big reason why this team won. Mitch Jeter, Money Mitch, the kicker, 3 for 3 on the road. There were some concerns about him in practice, but, man, he delivered on game day. Bo Collins, transfer wide receiver, biggest catch of the game. The recruits, guys who Marcus Freeman recruited and developed who got their first real taste of game action, guys like Jalen Snead, guys like Drake Bowen, they really, really performed well in that environment. So it's basically everything that has happened for Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman over the past 2 years, all the learning on the job, it all came together, and they delivered in such a huge way on Saturday night in a win. And it is proof that this program is headed in the right direction. And Marcus Freeman is, he's had to learn on the job a little bit, but this is proof that he's taken these lessons to heart and he's applying them on the field. What was the biggest concern for Notre Dame last season? Playing on the road. They came out sluggish against NC State. They laid a complete dud against Louisville. They snuck by Duke. They laid a dud against Clemson. All on the road. True road games. Notre Dame only has 3 of them this year. They came out and they were ready to go in this game. Texas A&M threw the first punch. They got that field goal on the opening drive. Notre Dame answered right back immediately. And then Texas A&M got another field goal later in the game. Notre Dame answered immediately. And then finally, Jadarian Price broke open the game with this touchdown. Then Texas A&M answered back, although they didn't complete a pass on that drive. And a big reason why they were able to get down the field was penalties on Notre Dame's side, which they definitely need to address. We'll talk more about that in segment 3. But then in the end, 6 minutes ago, Notre Dame's offense gets the ball, and they have to go 85 yards. Last year, would you have been confident that Notre Dame would be able to go down the field and score in that situation? I don't know. But Marcus Freeman hired Mike Denbrock this offseason, one of the best offensive coordinators in college football. And even though it was a sluggish performance by the offense throughout the game, in that moment, Mike Denbrock just put on a masterclass, helped lead the Irish down the field, scored a touchdown, game, blouses. Like, it was just a culmination of the improved coaching staff, the improved personnel, all of the improved support staff going on around the team and around this program. It all came together in a win, and I can't even explain how excited I am to finally get to witness that, because there was a moment, man, where I was not feeling good. I was I wasn't doing the surrender cobra, but I was sitting down in the stadium, and it was after Texas A&M scored, and then Notre Dame had to punt the ball, and you're thinking, man, is this really going to happen again? Because Notre Dame was the better team. Notre Dame should have been up by way more at halftime. It was tied, and I just felt like, man, this Notre Dame team, this offense and defense, they were just better than them in every way. They should be dominating this team, and it wasn't happening. Hey, it's tough. It's tough to win. It's tough to win on the road. And there was a moment in that second half where I'm like, are we really doing this again? Because there was Texas A&M had a good chance to win this game. They had the ball. Game was tied, fourth quarter, and they didn't do it. Things were different this time around. And the last Notre Dame football game I went to prior to this one was the Ohio State game. And if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that absolutely broke me. And I was having flashbacks to that game in the crowd, but it didn't happen this time. Notre Dame made the plays when they needed to. They went down the field on offense. They ran the ball. They threw it. A wide receiver made a play. How about that? Bo Collins on the last drive, second to last drive for the game for Notre Dame on offense, goes up one-on-one, great coverage by the Texas A&M quarterback, makes a play in the air, huge play, first down, Notre Dame did get bailed out because he probably should have been thrown a flag for unsportsmanlike conduct because he shoved the corner after the play. I don't know what he was doing there. You can't have that happen from a senior in that moment in time. But he made the play, and it was a really difficult catch, went down, put the Irish in great field position, and that was a massive, massive play. Riley Leonard might have struggled a little bit in the first half. He put this team on his back, both with his legs, and he made the key throws when he needed to down the stretch there at the end. And this just felt different. Like last year, we all had a bunch of high hopes going into the season. Sam Hartman was coming to town. You're thinking other parts of the game were going to be improved. And that team did take a step forward in the right direction, but still, a lot of the issues that had plagued this team and this program in the past came back to haunt them in the Ohio State game, for example, Louisville and Clemson. But this felt different, and the result was different. The Irish went into Kyle Field. They won this game despite the environment, despite the fact that they had a young offensive line going up against one of the best defensive lines in the country, going up against a really good coaching staff on Texas A&M, and it didn't matter. Like, we are so used to making excuses for why Notre Dame just came up short in these moments, but now we don't have to because Notre Dame delivered when they needed to, and now the schedule just opens up. I said in the season preview, if they win this game, I think they're going undefeated, and I absolutely stand on that now. This team is really, really good. They do have some flaws. They do have some things that they need to improve upon, but this team has the potential to have a really, really special season. And it's great because we've just spent 8 months talking about how good this team can be, and for them to finally deliver on a stage that big in front of such a large viewing audience just feels so good if you're a Notre Dame fan. And it's totally fair to get really, really excited about what's to come. All right, coming up next, why the turnover battle and explosive plays were the difference in this game. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast. Whether you have a long list to do for work or a long list of DIY projects to tackle at home, take a 5 Hour Energy shot so you can check everything off your list. If you're like me, you always have a long list of things to do, whether it be at home or at work. And when you get supplies for your project, you're ready to knock out that to-do list. Do not forget the most essential supply, which is a 5 Hour Energy shot. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it is the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5 Hour Energy website is flavors galore like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. There really is a flavor for everyone. You could try them all. On the site, you even have the option to build your own 12-pack or 24-pack. You choose the flavors, and it is delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy product today, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. Now, this offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders, but use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. So if you're an everyday listener to the show and you listened to my game previews last week, you know that the two things that I thought were going to decide this game were the turnover battle and who had the more explosive plays. Well, Notre Dame won the turnover battle 2-0, and they had more explosive plays. And that was the difference in this game. So in a way, it kind of played out exactly how I thought it would, because I expected for Texas A&M to come out and move the ball in the opening drive. It's the season opener. There's a bunch of time for the offense to do new things that they've never shown before on film. And on that first drive, the Texas A&M offense looked probably the best they did all game. Even better than they did when they scored, because a lot of those yards came via penalties and things like that later on in the game. Like I said, they didn't even complete a pass on that drive. But on the first drive, they were moving the ball. They had some nice run plays. They hit some chunk passing plays. They moved the ball down the field, but Notre Dame's defense came through, and they held them to a field goal. That was a very, very important moment. Notre Dame answered back, and then it was kind of a slog for the middle portion of the game. But later on, the biggest difference was explosive plays. Jadarian Price's 47-yard touchdown run was a massive play. And it was all him. Like, don't get me wrong, it was good blocking, but then he made a few defenders miss, ran to the end zone, and Texas A&M did not have a play like that all game. Notre Dame had 2 runs of 20 or more yards. They had Jeremiah Love run for a touchdown, and they had the Jadarian Price run for a touchdown. Texas A&M's longest run was 14 yards by E.J. Smith. Notre Dame had 1 catch of 20 or more yards, which was to Bo Collins on the last drive of the game. Texas A&M's longest pass play was 18 yards. Notre Dame won the turnover battle 2-0. Huge shout out to Adon Schuler, first interception of his career and his first ever start. Yes, the ball was kind of thrown right to him. Connor Wigman just completely missed his wide receiver. Still, right place, right time. Great play by him. And then Xavier Watts just picking up right where he left off last season with an unbelievable interception right before the end of the first half. I'm going to be honest, I was a little bit disappointed that Notre Dame wasn't a little bit more aggressive in that situation before the half because I thought they could probably try and get 20 yards, maybe set up a field goal. Either way, Notre Dame was a little bit passive in that situation. But that's my point. The game came down to turnover battles and more explosive plays, and Notre Dame delivered on both accounts. Notre Dame's defense is elite, man. They were unbelievable. They allowed 246 total yards in this game. 100 through the air, 146 on the ground, but Texas A&M only ran for 3.8 yards per carry. So for most of the game, they held them in check, and it was just a great performance. And it's exactly what we thought this defense could be. They were great last season when we felt like, okay, they could be even better this season because they returned a lot of guys, Howard Cross, Riley Mills, Jack Kaiser, Benjamin Morrison, Xavier Watts. And even though they had to keep Howard Cross on a pitch count to some extent, it felt like they were saving him for the second half. Their guys delivered, young and old, and it was a great performance by them. And we all kind of thought that the offense was going to struggle a little bit in this game. No one was predicting a shootout. I said, if you're going to bet this game, bet the under. I felt extremely confident about that, and as did pretty much everyone else, because I don't think I saw one person try to go against the grain and say, take the over. So I can't take too much credit there, but it was a rock fight for most of the game, and Notre Dame needed some explosive plays, and they got them when they needed them most. The Jadarian Price run came at a huge time. It was 2nd and 14. They had a long way to go. Texas A&M was playing back. Notre Dame took advantage of that by running the ball. The defense was not prepared for that, and then Jadarian Price made a couple guys miss on his way to the end zone. Awesome moment for him, especially after this week he pointed out that he's from Texas, put up huge stats when he was in high school, but Texas A&M never recruited him. So I'm sure that was a very sweet moment for him. And then on the final drive, you got Jeremiah Love breaking through the middle, going in for a touchdown, which was set up by the Bo Collins pass, big pass reception there for 20 yards. Like, in a game like this, it's those big plays that are going to be the difference, and Notre Dame just had way more of them than Texas A&M. Like, Notre Dame's defense basically held them to none. I mean, if your longest pass play was 18 yards, that means your secondary is really shutting them down, and if your longest run play is 14 yards, like, that is going to be a pretty damn good day for the defense. So I felt like a lot of what we thought about this team going into the season was validated based on the performance in this game. A couple guys I want to shout out on defense. Jack Kaiser, leading the team in tackles, no surprise there. Jordan Botelho, huge game for him. Maybe the biggest game of his career because he might have put up better numbers in the bowl games, but when you consider the magnitude of this game and who they were going up against, he was terrific. He had 6 tackles, 3 solo, and he was also just in the right spot at the right time. Like some of those things where he just kind of fly into the backfield where he wouldn't set the edge or anything like that. Those mistakes weren't happening in this game. Jalen Sneed played really well. He had 5 tackles, 4 of which were solo, and he had a tackles for loss. He was everywhere on this field. Who else? Howard Cross, even though he missed most of the first half, when he came in, he immediately got a sack there, and that one possession, I think after he had sat out like the previous 2 drives, comes in, gets a sack. That was a huge play. In this secondary, man, it's unbelievable. I think it could be better than last year, which is pretty crazy because I think that Adon Schuler is a better playmaker than DJ Brown was. And even if Christian Gray might not be the player that Cam Hart was at the end of last season, today, he's terrific. He had the biggest play of the game on Texas A&M's last drive. They tried him to run a little hitch on his side. He blew the play up. He also had a huge hit earlier in the second half, too. So he played great. Benjamin Morrison, he's a stud. I honestly am prepared to say it. I think that Benjamin Morrison is the best lockdown cornerback Notre Dame has ever had. I'm talking the 100-plus year history of this football program because they might have had defensive backs that put up bigger numbers, but when you consider what the game is today and how it's so pass-oriented, and then you've got a guy like Benjamin Morrison who can just basically eliminate one half of the field, it just allows you to do so much on defense. Like, I don't know the exact number for this, but I would imagine that there are very few college defenses who run more press man-to-man than Notre Dame, and it's because they trust their corners out there, whether it be Christian Gray, or whether it be Benjamin Morrison, or even Leonard Moore when he came in for a little bit. Jordan Clark, I thought, played pretty well as well. Notre Dame, Al Golden, the defensive coaching staff, they trust the corners one-on-one, and because of that, and because of the success that those corners have, They can bring way more pressure with the linebackers. They can try to do all these different things that might make life difficult on the offense. And boy, was life difficult on that Texas A&M offense. This was Connor Wigman's final stat line. 12 of 30, 100 yards passing, 2 picks. He averaged 3.3 yards per attempt. That is terrible. Like, that is really bad. I don't know if Wigman is that bad or if Notre Dame's defense made him that bad. I mean, he was a former 5-star. Dane Brugler had him as the 24 player overall. Maybe it was just a bad night for him, but this is pretty standard. This is kind of what we've come to expect with this Notre Dame defense. I mean, you think back to the first year of Al Golden, they held C.J. Stroud in check for the most part. The only quarterback who's had a ton of success against an Al Golden defense was Caleb Williams in the year that he won the Heisman, and then they fixed that last year because Caleb Williams' worst game of his career came at the hands of Al Golden's Notre Dame defense. And I think that for the rest of the schedule, Notre Dame's defense is going to have the advantage, a pretty significant advantage over every single offense that they play against. And that is a great place to be. That is usually what championship teams have. They have great defenses. They have great corners. They have great players in the secondary. They have guys in the defensive line who can get in the backfield. And they have fast, athletic linebackers who can make plays all over the field. And I think when you look at every single layer of this Notre Dame defense, they are elite or close to elite. I think the linebackers still got a little ways to go there, but that's in large part because they're young and they're going to get better. But the defense is a big, big reason why that they won this game. They won the turnover battle, but the offense came through when they needed to with some explosive plays. So coming up in segment 3, I want to break down what the Irish need to do and improve upon, specifically on offense, because as good as this defense is, the offense still has a lot more room to grow, but I think that they will, and as they do, this team should ultimately finish undefeated. Hey, Irish fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you are going to love just as much as I do. Ultimate College Football HC. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach at Notre Dame? From recruiting players and hiring your coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? Here's what I really love about the game, though. You are responsible for calling offensive plays during the games. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want and when you want to. And of course, we have a special offer for Locked On Irish listeners. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, all you need to do is visit ultimate-cfb.com or look it up in the app stores. That's Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. Playing a ranked team in such a big game in the season opener obviously can go one or two ways, right? You win, and it's like a springboard for the rest of the season, or you lose, and it really sets you back a little bit. And then you have to kind of work for weeks to kind of get back to where you want to be. But when you win, it's awesome. And Notre Dame won that big game, and I think that is going to be such a huge step for this team because now the schedule really opens up, right? They've got Northern Illinois coming to town, and then they don't really have a really, really big game, we think, until probably Florida State in November. I mean, Louisville's going to be tricky. There are going to be some tough games on the schedule, but this was, in my opinion, the toughest game that Notre Dame was going to have to face all year. So now that they won this game, the expectation for this team should be to go undefeated. They have a great defense. They have veterans. They have a great coaching staff. But in order for them to go undefeated, they are going to have to improve on offense. A couple things that I want to highlight here. Riley Leonard absolutely came through when this team needed him in the fourth quarter. Started to use his legs a little bit more in the second half. He finished with 12 carries for 63 yards. Really just tough downfield runner, faster than you think, good scrambler. But what he probably was most effective at was avoiding the rush. Like, Riley Leonard is the perfect quarterback for this team because he's going to get some pressures. This offensive line is going to continue to develop. They're going to get beat sometimes. But Riley Leonard is so good at avoiding pressure and getting out and away from these defenders that he's going to make more plays and he's going to be a difference in more games than not. That being said, I thought he struggled a little bit throwing the ball, especially in the first half. He missed Devin Ford on that third down play. When he did avoid a sack, he avoided it, rolled right, Had Devin Ford there in the flat. If he completes that pass, it's probably like a 30 to 40 yard chunk play for Devin Ford because there was no defender around him. But unfortunately, Leonard threw it in the ground, and then Notre Dame had to punt. There was another play later on in the first half where Leonard was rolling right. He had Cooper Flanagan wide open in the end zone, and I think he had another guy open as well underneath, but he just threw another incomplete pass. He also had a couple other just errant throws, especially in the first half, that were frustrating. It's like, okay, like this has kind of been my concern about Riley Leonard. He needs to be a little bit more accurate. He was not very accurate in this game, but he was when it mattered. On that last drive, that 3rd down and 5, he hit Jaden Greathouse on the out route. There's a perfectly thrown ball away from the defenders so that only Jaden Greathouse can catch it. He gets the first down, keeps the drive alive. So the fact that he was able to make that throw, he was able to make the throw to Bo Collins when he could just go up and get it. Like, that's a very difficult pass and catch, and you have to trust your wide receiver in that moment, and he put it in a perfect spot for Bo Collins to go up and get it. So there are signs that he can be a good passer, but he's going to have to improve. He's going to have to be a little bit more consistent because I don't think Notre Dame wants to run him nearly as much down the road. Like, they're going to run him a lot in the big games. We'll probably see it against Louisville, but like I don't expect him to carry the ball as much against Northern Illinois, Purdue, Miami of Ohio, things like that, because you have to preserve this guy for the full season. He took some shots in this game. That targeting call in the first quarter, first of all, insanely dumb play by that Texas A&M defender. I mean, when they have like the video of what targeting is and why it should be illegal, they are going to show that play. It was so blatant. Even all the Texas A&M fans around me were like, okay, he's gone, and he probably should be because that was a pretty dirty hit. Honestly, there were some of us in the crowd who thought Riley Leonard might be concussed after that because he was not really playing that well in the immediate aftermath, but he figured it out. But Riley Leonard is going to have to improve throwing the ball downfield. I think Notre Dame is going to try that a little bit more now that they're going up against some of the weaker opponents to get that passing game going. Like, you look at the receiver stat line, Bo Collins led the way with 5 receptions, 62 yards. But then second behind him was Jaden Greathouse, 3 catches, 26 yards. Like, I'm expecting a lot more from him down the road. We did not see a lot of Mitchell Evans in this game, which was interesting. Not too big of a surprise because even though it felt like at the beginning of preseason camp, there was a lot of momentum that Mitchell Evans was going to be back ready to go for the season opener. But then I think that kind of cooled off right before the season started, and it kind of felt like if Notre Dame was playing any other game other than Texas A&M, Mitchell Evans wouldn't have played at all. According to Pro Football Focus, he played a total of 10 snaps. Cooper Flanagan and Eli Raridon got the bulk of the action. I thought Cooper Flanagan played pretty well. He had a huge block on that Jeremiah Love run. He had a big catch and a corner route, but I was expecting a little bit more from the Notre Dame tight ends in this game. Eli Raridon didn't even have a catch in this game, but he was out there for 30 snaps. The fact that Cooper Flanagan is getting more reps than Eli Raridon is a bit interesting to me. That's going to be something to monitor going forward. If Cooper Flanagan has solidified himself as tight end number 2 on this team, I was kind of hoping to see a little bit more from them. Notre Dame did not try to push the ball vertically much at all. I mean, Chris Mitchell, the deep threat, only had 1 catch for 12 yards. Jordan Faison went out in this game with what appears to be an ankle injury. He seems to be pretty confident that it's not going to be like a season-ending injury or anything like that, but he did go down awkwardly in what looked like a hip drop tackle. But the good thing for Notre Dame is you lose one of your receivers who was one of the most productive guys in the team last season and a starter on this team and like in years past that could really set the offense back. Not this year. Notre Dame just brought in Chris Mitchell. Jan Harrison got the ball a little bit, rotated some guys here as well. So I want to see a little bit more from this passing game. Like, the good thing is they don't really play that many good defenses for a while, so I think that they're going to have some time now to get that going here down the road here. But that's something that really needs to improve upon if Notre Dame is going to do some damage in the college football playoff. Like, you can't win a rock fight. You're going to have to win a shootout against a good team at some point down the line. So I think they need to improve there. But the offensive line is going to improve. Honestly, I have not really talked enough about this group for as much as we talked about them going into this game. I thought they really held their own. Was it the best performance I've ever seen? No. Did Anthony Knapp and Sam Pendleton have some mistakes? Yes, absolutely. But when you consider the circumstances, the environment they played in, the opponent they were going against, I thought they played really, really good football. Ashton Craig, Billy Strouth, really good games from them. I thought Emil Wagner held his own in his first start. And yeah, there were some plays where they got beat, but it's going to happen. Right, like the way that some people talked about this mismatch and the way that I thought it could go down if things went really south, like there was a world where they could be in the backfield all night. Notre Dame couldn't run the ball or pass the ball. Riley Leonard technically was not sacked one time, although he did have a play where he just rolled out right and it was a loss of 2. So it technically wasn't a sack because he ran out on his own accord, but it was a sack for all intents and purposes. But this offensive line really, really stood, like they came to play in a situation where a lot of people doubted if they would be able to do it. Yes, they got beat. Yes, they have a lot to improve upon, but I think this was a big, big moment for them. And just think about the confidence it's going to give guys like Knapp and like Pendleton and even Emil Wagner, who are making their first career start going up against a really good defensive line, and they played well enough to win. And the fact that Notre Dame won by running a play right up the middle for a touchdown is so huge for this group because they went into a 9-man box in that play, and they had a great seal by Pendleton, and Craig gave Love just a little bit of wiggle room, and he is so fast and so athletic. He managed to slip through there, go up the field for a touchdown, and it was just an awesome win. This group needs to get a lot better. I think they will. Credit to Joe Rudolph and the offensive staff for getting them ready to play and having them play well enough in a game where a lot of people doubted that they would be able to do it. So I think if they improve there, like this team is going to be really, really good. It's kind of what we expected. It's not a fully well-rounded team, but in the biggest moments, this team, offense, defense, they delivered. Special teams too, man. Can't talk enough about Mitch Jeter going 3 for 3. Big time kicks, pretty far too, in a really loud, raucous environment. So I think this is just such a great win. As I said at the top, this is a program win for Marcus Freeman. They've got a lot to improve upon. They've got 11 more games to do it. But this team should have all of their eyes set on making the playoff and making a serious run in the college football playoff because health permitting, they have all the pieces to do it, and this was just step one. It was a big step, a very important step for this team in this season and also for just the state of the program going forward. It was such a massive win to do it on that kind of stage, and the way they did it, man, I am just so proud of this team. I'm so excited about what's to come, and I'm so grateful that you're joining me here on this day to listen to this episode because it is going to be a really, really fun season ahead. I'm going to be here every day during the week. It was actually great meeting a lot of you in College Station who watch or listen to the show. That was really cool, and I just think that this is going to be such a special ride, and I'm so excited to be a part of it and talk to you about it along the way. But that is going to do it for today's episode. I was going to say thanks again for making Locked On Irish your first listen of the day, but if you're listening on Sunday night, it's probably not your first listen. But if it's on Monday, thank you for making it your first listen of the day. Here's the plan for the rest of this week. So the next episode is going to come out on Tuesday morning. Luke Smith is going to come on. We're going to share some final thoughts in the A&M game, what we liked, what we didn't like from the weekend. Wednesday's show plan is TBD at the moment. I have a feeling it's probably going to be about Deuce Knight decommitting. We're going to have to wait and see on that. Then on Thursday, we're going to shift our focus to the Northern Illinois game. I'm going to do a game preview there. And then on Friday, I'm going to do the mailbag. I'm going to bring back the Friday mailbag for the rest of the season. So if you ever got a question, send them in. I'm going to be doing a mailbag show every single Friday. Those are a lot of fun. If you've got questions, send them in the YouTube comments or on social media. Twitter is at Locked On Irish. Instagram is Locked On Irish Pod. Also, follow my personal account at Tyler, WOJCIAK. Also, please subscribe on YouTube or wherever you're listening to the podcast, and I'll see you Tuesday.